Hello, I'm Annie Gérin, Dean of the Faculty of Fine Arts at Concordia University, and I'm here in conversation with Hrafnhildur Gunnarsdottir. Hrapa is an Icelandic film and TV director and director of photography with a BFA from the San Francisco Art Institute. She's worked on many documentary films such as Alive in Limbo, which received the Locarno Human Rights Special Mentions and the Spirit Award from the Boulder International Film Festival, and Señorita Extraviada by Lourdes Portillo, which received a Special Documentary Jury Award at the Sundance Film Festival. She also produced and directed major documentaries on Icelandic women's movement, gay civil rights, and gay youth in Iceland. She is currently working on documentary projects about possible fluoride pollution, near an aluminum factory in Iceland. The film that we're discussing today is The Vasulka Effect, a feature documentary about the video art pioneers Steina and Woody Vasulka. The film won in 2020 the Icelandic Edda Prize. Hrapa, hello, and how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Iceland is doing well here with 0 COVID cases and 1 volcano about to blow up. So
that's very concerning. So we hope that we'll get through the interview.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So the Vasulkas, they were part of the scene that pioneered video art in New York. And I just realized seeing your movie that was already more than 50 years ago. That's pretty amazing. And they worked alongside people like Andy Warhol, Namjoon Paik, Eric Siegel, and many others. But what's interesting, what comes across your film is that they seem to understand the artistic potential of technology and communication tools in ways that go well beyond the moment when they started producing their work. So I'm interested in how you're seeing their interest in the process and in the potential of technology rather than technology itself.
Oh, that's a big question. But yeah, the Vasulkas are unique in the sense that they were not so much interested in what they were filming, but how they could affect the signal that was on the screen. They came to video from 2 different directions. She had been a violinist and he was a filmmaker, and the 2 really created magic with video. And it was really interesting when I was delving into the subject, because I've known the Vasulka since the 80s. They were actually closer. They're like 50% video and 50% sound. And like Steina said, when they were experimenting with the technology, they were doing things that nobody else was doing. They would approach the video signal through means of tinkering with it with audio synthesizers, and the king in their world was voltage and frequency. And they were equally creating soundtracks with pictures that they were entering into the video signal, or making the video signal move by the sounds that they were putting into the monitors. So they were quite unique.
The playfulness of their work and of their approach really comes across.
Absolutely. I think Steina, because she wasn't like a technical person. I think she really had the mindset of a hacker, and they were kind of like the original hackers in video at the time. I remember when I came, I was filming in their space in Santa Fe. I had brought like a 360-degree small camera to film the studio, and it took Steina like 5 minutes. Then she had the camera in hand and was figuring out how she could input video into this camera. And she was 79 at the time, so it's a mindset that didn't die at all.
I was particularly struck by the human aspect of your film. You present Steina and Woody as an art duo, which is, and you present them as being equally creative and equally technologically savvy. It's actually kind of a rare representation of an art world that was really male-dominated in the 1960s. But you also cast them in a really intimate gaze. We see them nude. We see them talking about economic precarity. They speak about death. As a director, how do you go about creating that kind of trust with your subjects?
Well, of course, it all goes to being able to make them trust you. And like I said, they are very unique people in the sense that they have always just decided that they live from day to day, and they always did that, and they're not very controlling. And Steina, of course, trusted me. When I started making the film and I started doing the research for the film, I thought I might just make a film about Steina, because being a woman, being a filmmaker and an artist, I am super aware of these things that you have just pointed out about the lack of female representation, especially in this time. And Steina is very unique in that sense. But then I realized there was really no way to make a film about Steina without having Woody, because they were intricate parts of each other's art making. And of course, this thing that they called art, because they didn't really look at themselves as artists, and they thought a lot of times, I think they thought artists were kind of pompous and stuck up, and they wanted to play, and they played, and they were playful in their life, and I was able to catch them being playful on film. And Steina, the only thing that promise I made her is that I would give her the film without music in the end, because he was so concerned that I would put some horrible music on the film. And I said, no problem. She also wanted all the footage, which I said that was fine too. But then she ended up really liking the music, so she never really wanted the film without the music.
How did they react to the film when you showed them?
They came, we were doing the rough cut. It was about a year before Woody died, because he died in December of 2019. And they were pleased. Woody, I wasn't creating something that wasn't there. I wasn't making them to be some people that they were not. He loved to run around naked, and he would appear in other art pieces as, just the naked guy. So they were quite pleased. And of course, it's always a little concerning when you're showing people the work, but they liked it. And Woody, of course, at that time, he wasn't so obsessed with the representation, but so they were happy with the film.
I understand your film to be in part a reflection on legacy and memory, and it really struck me in particular when Steina was speaking of the labor involved in cleaning the tapes to have them digitized, or when we're watching them, watching historical footage of themselves. Was that something that you had set out to do, or did that just happen?
That just happened. And as a matter of fact, it's what propelled me into making the film. I had been traveling. I used to live in San Francisco, and I studied there. And I, at one point, flew to Denver and decided to drive to San Francisco. It was in 2013, and I came by Woody and Steina's because I had met them in the 80s. And when I came there, they were literally going through their catalog and trying to figure out how to preserve the work. And I thought, oh, this is such an interesting moment in their life. You know, they are almost broke. They have this huge legacy, and they're trying to figure out where to place their legacy. And I said, oh, this is an interesting time to film. And I got a script writing grant, and I came back a little less than a year later, and they were still in the same mode of cleaning tapes, sending it off, and trying to figure out where to place their huge media library. So, yeah, none of it was set up. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, everything that I filmed was just I was hanging out at their house for as long as I could, and traveling with them when they were going places. I had sort of written, you have to write a script for the film fund, and I had written in the script that, you know, the film would end with a major exhibit at a major museum, and, you know, not knowing what that would be. And I was about to give up, and then the opportunity arose there in September of 2018, when Steina had accepted an invitation from the Whitney. And it was just 2 weeks after my daughter was born. So it wasn't exactly the best time for me to travel, but I had to go, and we went to New York, and we had a really good shoot in New York.
So Hrata, you're right now in Reykjavik, and there's obviously a really strong connection to Iceland in the movie. I mean, you show these recurrent images. I mean, these artworks that show manipulated images of Icelandic landscape, which are incredibly beautiful. And then we see in the film the rediscovery of Steina in Iceland with the inauguration of the Vasulka chamber. Can you speak a little bit about how Steina is considered in Iceland today, and what it means for you as a director to make a film about a fellow Icelandic artist?
Yes, well, it's an interesting story with me and Steina. When I was studying in California, I was in art school, and people would always assume that I was studying video art, and I was in two schools there: California College of Arts and Crafts, and then San Francisco Art Institute. And I was like, why video art? Why is video art always coming up? And then this one lady, Donald Day, who was a teacher, and Jody Gillerman, they started talking about this woman Steina, and I was like, Steina who? And I had no idea about her or her work. And then during my time in California, I ended up meeting her, and I ended up getting to know her work and Woody's work. And I was kind of pissed that nobody in Iceland knew about her. You know, I hadn't known about her. So I had ended up doing a small piece for TV in 1992. And then she became a little bit known. And then she was just back in, La La Land, nobody remembered her. I remember in 2005, she got an award, and all of a sudden everybody was calling me to get footage of Steina. Nobody else had footage of her. And so it meant a lot for me to make this film, because I was super aware of that I didn't want her to be forgotten. And I was also so impressed with the way in which that she approached her artwork, if you will, using the landscape and really being of this place. I mean, she is so Icelandic. I mean, she's both her language. I mean, after 60 some years abroad, how much? I mean, she's much more of America than she is of Iceland. Yet Iceland shines so strongly through everything that she does. Yeah, so it is kind of a personal odyssey to make a film that would somehow capture them and their importance, and especially hers in the art world.
Did Steina's work as a video artist have some influence on your work as a filmmaker?
Me and Steina are kind of the opposite. There's at one point we had a conversation, and she said, "Hrafna, I don't care about audience. I would like to have 100 monitors and one person in the audience." And I said, "Well, that's perfect, because I would like to have one monitor and 100 people in the audience." So then we agreed that we could work together.
So how does, for you, again, as a filmmaker, thinking about the early days of video art help you think differently about the work that you're doing now?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I certainly have been using video all my life as a filmmaker, because I was always in love with the small cameras, and a lot of the work I did, most of the shooting I've done is with video cameras. And being in, moving with filmmakers, there was always a rivalry between filmmakers and video makers. And first of all, video has won. And so that's quite interesting. But certainly video art has definitely influenced me personally. And of course, we are sitting here speaking now with a legacy of what the video artists had imagined, because I mean, some of the first performances that the video artists did was to sit in a studio with a monitor and a camera and talk from opposite ends of the studio, and people were like, "What are they doing?" And now everybody's doing it. So I mean, video art, has really influenced our everyday life. In every aspect, the visual aspect of video art has been enormous.
So on that note, Hrafna, I thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me, but also for making this film that's both incredibly thought-provoking, but also very moving on a human level. Thank you very much.
Thank you.